give us a little countdown. Go. Welcome, everybody, to Rock and Recovery. Your host is me, Jay, and I've got a special guest, Nancy McKay, the founder of the Brave Recovery Method, also the author of the Brave Recovery Method. Nancy.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How'd you like your little intro? Yeah, I mean, it's just off the spur of the moment. I seen the little thingy banner under your name. I'm like, yeah, I can use that.
Right. That's right.
All right. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and tell me about the Brave Recovery Method, because I have honestly never heard of it.
Okay. Well, it's pretty new, so no worries. I started coaching about 7.5 years ago. I used to be in the oil and gas industry, and I had a long career in that, and re-entered that career after I got sober in 2009. I got back into the oil and gas industry in 2010, and then was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2015. So
Wow.
I'm a 10-year survivor of that. And once I got through all the treatment and everything, I really started, my perspective on life began to change. You know, I kind of had a wake-up call. And while I had a great job and with a really good company, and I, enjoyed the people that I was working with, I didn't enjoy the work I was doing. And I knew there had to be more to life than what I was doing. And I wanted to do something that really helped people and fed my soul. And so I started looking at different ways to do that. And I landed on wanting to become a life coach. And so at the age of 61, I started training to become a life coach. And that has led me through three certifications, one as a life coach and two as Equus coach and master facilitator Equus coach, which means working with horses as my co-facilitators. And so in 2019, I retired from my corporate job to concentrate full-time on coaching. And I created my first company was called Amazing Outlook Coaching. And this year I rebranded to Women Empowered Recovery. And because it really talks about what I do. And so I work with women. Most of them are over 40 who are struggling with life's challenges, basically, who are, many of them are facing addiction, but many are burnt out,
Right.
or facing grief, trauma, just the shit that life throws at us, right? And so I'm also a She Recovers coach. And one of the taglines that She Recovers has is, we're all recovering from something.
Right.
And I fully believe that. I know that everyone on the face of the planet has something that they have struggled with in the past.
Absolutely. And there's one thing I like to tell everybody: if you don't know what addiction is, if you don't know what addiction feels like, is put down your phone for a day and try not to pick it up.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, we are all addicted to our phones. Yeah. So that's what that's what my business is. And then the reason I created the Brave Recovery Method was because there's so many, there's a lot of recovery paths now.
There's a bunch of different ways to recover.
There's a bunch of different paths.
So many,
and which is incredible. I mean, it's fabulous. When I got sober, there was one, and it's a good one. Don't, I'm not
an anonymous program.
I'm not throwing any shade. It saved my life.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for it. And it worked for me until it didn't. And I wanted to not only talk about the alcohol element, but I also wanted to talk about the grief element and the burnout element and all the different things that we recover from, so that women didn't feel like, well, I can't recover because I'm not addicted to alcohol, or
right.
And so that's not for me. I'm just burnt out, or I'm grieving the death of my husband, or I'm trying to figure out how to take care of my kids and my parents, and what the hell do I do? And so, this program or this book talks about how you can believe in yourself and build your resilience, become authentically you, raise your voice, and all of that gives you empowerment. And
absolutely.
And that gives you recovery. And so, when we can gain empowerment ourselves, I don't do anything to empower women. I'm not empowering women. I'm helping them empower themselves. Then they can help empower someone else. They can encourage and inspire and, help each other.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. It's easier to recover in a community
Absolutely.
of people that have your back, basically, and want to see you do good,
Absolutely.
And that's mainly what it is that encouragement of somebody else rooting you on, making you feel like you're worthy enough, is a wonderful thing. I mean, that part in itself, is probably the best thing. So,
right.
And I find, it's funny. We mentioned a program, and I'm a big believer of any pathway to recovery, any pathway to sober is the best pathway, but I find that there's a lot more people in the oldest program out there that have relapsed and done. It's just weird. It's just my experiences, that even if you were forced or whatever else to go to this program through court orders, whatever else, it does work, for the people that want to work it. Yet I also find that people that go to a facility first, like a rehab or that type of facility, and then continue it with the 12 steps, works better. It's the continuing part that a lot of people forget. And so how does the Brave Recovery Method go with the continuation of staying recovered?
Well, I think having your toe in any kind of recovery program is what you know, in any kind of community, recovery community is what helps.
Yeah.
And so whether you're working with a coach on an ongoing basis or in a support group, you know, She Recovers, one of the reasons why I love being a coach for She Recovers is they have, you know, twice daily online free meetings, twice daily. And it's an incredible program, you know, and they, you know, like I say, they say that we're all recovering from something. And so it's not just alcohol. They cover, you know, the gamut. And so, you know, that is a place where women can go. It's a women's and non-binary
Right.
folks program. And there's a lot of recovery programs that are that way, that are online free programs. I think as long as you stay connected to something, your chances of staying either sober or, you know, and that's one of the things I talk about in this book is that, you know, just because you're not fighting addiction doesn't mean you can't relapse.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
That's
You
that's
know,
a fact.
relapse may look different depending on what your issue is. You know, if you, you know, if you're codependent, for instance, and you find yourself putting other people first instead of taking care of yourself, and, you know, if you start people pleasing,
Mm,
you know that things are starting to go south,
right.
right?
You
That's
know,
that you're headed for relapse,
yep.
right?
Yep.
So you know
Once you
that you
start
need,
saying yes too many times and letting
yeah,
your boundaries, it's a
exactly.
big boundary issue, you know.
That's a
And that's
boundary. Yeah.
that's one thing that we have to learn in recovery is 99% of it could stop with boundaries.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
99% of whatever you're going through, you can stop by having firm, unbreakable boundaries.
Right.
And it's crazy that you have to go through all this bullshit to get to where you can say no to something and mean it, you know? And yeah, you might feel bad, but I don't, not no more. You know, if I
Right.
say no, then it's no, you
Right.
know. I don't need to have a reason. I don't need to have an excuse. I don't need to explain myself. I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Either take it
that's
or leave it.
right. And no is a complete sentence. And yet, for some people, that is a really difficult word
It is.
to
It
say.
really is.
And
You know,
so then it's like, okay, what is that all about? You know, what are you making the word no mean? Right?
rejection,
Yeah.
you know, not being worthy enough,
Mhm.
not feeling good, lost love, you know. Oh, if I don't say yes, then this
They won't
person's
love.
not going to like me. This person's not going to love me. This person's not going to ask me to do something else with them later. You know,
Right?
I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be whatever.
Right.
If you say no, that's what no means to most people.
Right. And that explains a lot of why people are afraid to set boundaries
Mm.
and why there is so much codependency.
You know,
And
I found it in early on when I was learning boundaries that I didn't have boundaries. I had boundaries on certain things, you
Mhm.
know, but for the most part, if you're an addict, you don't have many boundaries. You know, there's not much that you wouldn't do or wouldn't say yes to.
Mhm.
And yet then when you start saying no, you're villainized. You're the bad person because you're saying no.
Oh yeah.
You know, how do you get over that feeling? How do you work with somebody going through that and teach them that it's okay? It's not you that's the bad person. You're just building yourself back up.
Right. Well, that's where, the self-esteem comes in, and the belief in yourself comes in, and that, you have to know that's where values come in. I think is really important. You have to know what's really important to you, and how are you going to really remember what's important in your core, so that when shit hits the fan and somebody really pressures you, are you going to have your own back or not?
That's what it counts. That's where
it really counts, right?
Yep.
And so, it may not happen right away. You may have to, it takes a little bit of muscle building, right? But everyone is capable of having their own back. And it doesn't mean you have to be an asshole about it.
Correct.
Either.
Correct.
You can be gracious and still say no. No, thank you. I don't want to do that.
Mine is normally, nah, I just don't feel like it. I just don't feel like it. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
And when tomorrow comes, it's either past or whatever else. And it's like, well, maybe next time.
Right. Right.
It's not saying I'm not rejecting them. It's I just don't feel like it.
Right. And it depends what the situation is, and because maybe it's a hard pass. Maybe it's something that, if
that's when absolutely not.
Right. Because let's face it, sometimes we have to, change our playmates in our playgrounds, right?
Absolutely.
And so you do have to set some hard boundaries sometimes. And we do have to say, okay, not going to go there anymore. Not going to do that. Not going to play with that person anymore. And that can be really hard to do.
Absolutely.
But when your life is at stake, then that's where those values come in, right? Then it's easier to put your stake in the ground and say, absolutely not.
Not today.
Not today.
And some of the, when I have to say absolutely not, then they are already expecting that answer already. They were just testing the waters. If it's something so serious, I say absolutely no, that's a hard pass, or no, just absolutely not. They expected that answer.
Yeah.
Let's be real. 99% of the people know the answer is probably gonna be no.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I've never had anybody put me in that position. I've had people drop off, leave the they knew I wasn't going to come to the playground anymore, so they stopped inviting me to the playground.
And I found, so you as well as I know that we lose all our old contacts.
Yep.
Once we start getting sober.
Yep.
And those that respect your path, whether they respect it or not, if they're still an active addiction and they're still part of your past, they respect it enough to either leave you alone.
Yep.
Or they don't want nothing to do with you because they're thinking, like we thought, that I'm going to judge them
Yep.
because they're still an addiction. No,
Yep.
absolutely not. Never. I just want you to get out of it. So, but that's on your time. I'm not going to preach it to you.
Yep.
That's on you.
Yep.
Yet being in that addict mindset, we lose all those friends because even if they're true friends, they don't want that. They're fearing that judgment.
That judgment.
They're fearing that, oh, he's not one of us anymore, but I still am.
Exactly.
I'm a recovered one of us, and it's that community thing. Now I'm not part of that community because I'm not doing the same things.
Yep.
So I can't be part of that community. So I got to be part of another community.
Yeah.
And
and it's unfortunate because I've lost a lot of friends that have that mindset, and it's too bad because it's just too bad.
It is. It's a terrible thing, and I know you said something earlier. You're in the oil and gas industry. I worked on oil rigs, triples in Colorado for so long. That's probably one of, I'll be honest, that's where my addiction thrived, because I was high. I can stay up. I can drink. I can party. It's the lifestyle for a single male,
Yep.
That wants money and will go to the bar and spend money and on the drugs and everything else. And it was a blast until it wasn't. And then it's like, oh shit. What?
Yep.
Why am I broke already? It's Friday. I just got paid or it's Saturday. I got paid yesterday. How did I spend $900 at a bar?
How can it be gone? Yeah.
This literally $900 at a bar was nothing, but it was like, why am I asking for somebody for some money when I just got paid?
Right.
That's when I knew, well, hey, there it goes. I didn't stop then either. Yeah. I didn't stop then. I didn't stop. 20 years in prison didn't stop me. I didn't stop until I needed to stop, until something else changed, and it did. So it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did fighting cancer, were you fighting cancer and being sober, or did you fight cancer after sobriety?
I fought cancer after sobriety. I got sober in 2009.
Okay.
And I was diagnosed with cancer in 2015.
Okay.
So I was sober 6 years when the cancer came along, and it never occurred to me to drink.
Wow.
Didn't,
That was my next question. Did you ever have that thought of, I got cancer, why not?
Yeah. And it's so funny because, one of the things that we talk about in the rooms is, what would be the thing that would make you drink if you, like, for instance, if you got cancer, would you have a drink? And I kind of always thought that maybe I would, but I didn't, and it just didn't occur to me. And so it was surprising. There were times that before I knew if I had cancer for sure, I was kind of in a depressive state. So I kind of wanted to die, but I didn't want to drink,
Right.
So,
right.
It was, and I got, with that higher power, man, I was scared, and then I asked God to take that away, and poof.
Yeah. And it's crazy when we start to rely on our higher power. He always turns up. He's always there.
Yeah.
It's just that you've got to be clear-headed and thoughtful and silent enough to just listen.
And boy, do I forget that.
Oh, you and me both. I get reminded about it all the time. That's why I do this. I talk to people all the time, and this is the reason. That's the reason why, because the higher power will always come up, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't forget. I knew you were there. And even when I'm going through stuff myself, it's like, am I really going through it? Or is it something that is in my head, or something that I needed to go through? Is it something that he's saying, Jason, you still got to work on this. This is why I'm doing this. You haven't learned the lesson yet. You need to do this, or you're going to keep doing it. So do it right this time, you know? And I find the lessons are a whole lot easier to deal with, you know, now clear-headed, obviously, but knowing that, you know, it's teachable. It's a teachable moment. It's not anything to set me back. It's to teach me. If I'm going through something, that means I'm meant to go through it to learn from it.
Yeah.
And once I've learned from it, I can move on.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I just keep forgetting sometimes, you know. No, I can handle it.
Oh, those are the worst words ever, because you sure can. Oh, so you can handle that. Here, how about some of this?
How some of that?
Still? Okay, here. How about a little bit more?
Mm-hmm.
There yet? Oh, okay. Now.
Yeah.
You know, and I find that he does that because he's not going to give us too much we can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to give us a lot because we think we can handle it. And then we get to that breaking point. I told you I wouldn't give you too much to handle.
Yeah.
Told you. You can do this still, but now I'll help you.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy. It just works that way. And far be it for me to know why that, that's a two-edged sword. I'm not going to give you too much you can't handle. So if you think you can handle it, keep asking for more.
Yeah.
You know, and I test the waters. You know, my toe is always in that water. Yeah, I got this.
Let's see,
oh, maybe I don't. It's like, oh, maybe I don't. All right, you were right. So how did creating the Brave Recovery Method, how was that process for you?
You know, it was really interesting. I started it because I wanted to have something that I could give my clients. And at the time I was really planning on working. I wanted to develop a program for groups, and I wanted to have something that they could follow. So I was going to do a workbook. And then one of my mentors looked at it and said, you know, I don't think you should just have this for your clients. I think you need to have this for everyone. And so I decided to change it from a workbook to a paperback book and make it more accessible. So that's why I did it the way I did it. But it's, you know, each chapter is one of the letters of Brave, and it just breaks down, you know, what that means and what are the elements of that I believe go into it, you know, and what are the things that, you know, what are the things that help contribute to that. So like, for instance, in resilience, I've got some breathing exercises.
Oh, so that's the R part. So what's the B part?
B
Might
part,
as well just run through it. Run through it.
B is for belief.
Okay.
And building your capacity for belief in yourself. And R is resilience. A is authenticity, building your authenticity and knowing that you're coming from a place of your values and, you know, trusting yourself really. And V is for voice and really learning to have your own back and speaking up for yourself and telling people what you want instead of playing small. And E is kind of, you know, it's empowerment, and it's sort of rolling all of that together and, you know, putting yourself out into the world as a, you know, a strong woman and knowing what you want and being
Right.
able to know that the challenges that you've been through, whether it's addiction or grief or burnout or trauma, those things that you've been through have built character and strength. And I think so many people think that the things they go through are a sign of weakness. And especially in addiction, it's something to be ashamed of, and especially for women. Um, and that's one. Well, I'm not going to go there, but
Hmm.
it can be a very shame-inducing
Absolutely.
for women,
And
and there's
that big shame circle
yeah,
uh,
and
with men too. Women, they have it a little bit more. I agree. It is 100%. As an addict woman, it is 100% harder.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Because that opens up the door for a lot of abuse and trauma.
Yep.
And that shame, thinking that you let it happen to you,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't happen. It happened to you, not because of you.
Yeah.
And you have to get out of that shame circle thinking that it was your fault.
Right.
Because you let it happen. You didn't let it happen. It happened to you, not because of you.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And it's hard to, especially when I talk with women, it's hard to get them to understand that. Even guys, because as a strong male, it didn't happen. If I went through something, it's because I let it happen. No, not necessarily, but still thinking that if I was going through something, then I let it happen because I couldn't stop it is very bad thinking, but it's not true, because as an addict, you're going to feed your addiction. It's not feeding yourself. It's feeding your addiction.
Yeah.
It's fueling your addiction. It's doing whatever you can to get the next fix. If it's being mean, if it's being hurtful, if it's doing whatever, it's feeding your fix. It's feeding the beast. Like they say, feeding the beast, because it really is a beast.
Yeah.
And, we didn't start off as an addict. None of us start off as an addict.
Right.
It's a side effect of how we coped with something.
Right.
Whether that be to fit in, whether that be trauma, whatever the case may be, addiction is a side effect of how we coped.
Right.
Because we didn't have the coping tools. We didn't have the skills. We didn't have the education. We didn't have whatever we lacked in our head that said, okay, yeah, I'd rather forget than deal with it. And all of a sudden, forgot turned into, I need to forget every day.
Yeah.
Because now that shame's keeping me in addiction.
Right.
So once we break that habit, that cycle, that shame circle, it's a whole lot easier to, you can look back on it and you can see it. And if you're not in a safe space and a comfortable space, comfortable with your recovery, comfortable with yourself, is that those memories will probably make you want to forget more.
Right.
And don't. You got the tools you need to cope with it the right way. Yet still, I see people constantly, all the time, going back because that shame.
Yep.
And there's nothing to be shameful about. Relapse, you don't even have to be ashamed about a relapse.
Oh, hell no.
It happens. It happens to, look, Charlie Sheen, one of the best actors out there. How many times has he been in recovery and sober, and then all of a sudden fell off the wagon? Next thing you know, he's in the news for doing something stupid. I love Charlie Sheen as an actor, and now that he's on his sober kick again, I love him even more, and I hope it sticks. And so it's just amazing the amount of people from the top to the bottom that it affects 100% the exact same way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the it's just crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So the Brave Recovery Method started off as a worksheet and then turned into a book.
Yep. Well, it
So-
started out as a workbook and turned into a paperback book. So
Okay, yeah, my bad.
it's okay.
Basically a workbook and then turned into an actual book.
Yeah.
Does it come along with the worksheets?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
each chapter
And I've
has
got,
its own worksheet.
Yep. There's worksheets in it, and then there's worksheets in it, and then there's I've got a starter guide that's a free ebook on my website that people can get, and
So how was fighting cancer? Because I know you started the Brave Recovery Method with your journey with cancer. Is that right?
no.
Okay.
I just wrote the Brave Recovery Method this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how did cancer affect the way you wrote that, or did it at all?
Well, I kind of pulled from my experience of it, but that was 10 years ago. So
Right.
not really significantly, except that, one of the things that influences all the work I do is that the challenges that I've been through, the drinking and the childhood trauma and the depression and the cancer, have all built the strength and resilience that I have now, that has, I think, given me the perseverance to become a what I hope is a good coach and a persistent business owner. So,
Well, I know you said you worked with horses. I knew back, I don't know, this was like right after my time on the oil rigs. One of my parole officers was actually quitting the parole department and starting equine based therapy for teenagers.
mhm.
And he was like the first person to do it in the Greeley, Colorado area, Colorado in general, other
Uh-huh.
than prison. Prison, we had, the WHIP program, Wild Horse Inmate Program,
Uh-huh.
which is a great program.
Yeah.
Yet he was the first parole. I mean, he was quitting parole to start this therapy base. So why do you think working with horses and addicts is so empowering?
Well, working with horses and humans is just incredible, and working with horses and people in recovery is just it's just another layer. I think people who are in recovery from anything, but also people who are addicts, like you said, we cope, that our drug of choice, whatever that is our coping tool, our main coping tool for life's challenges that were thrown at us, whatever they were, whether it was trauma or whatever. I mean, trauma is what started that need for a coping tool of that kind, to make us numb out or feel better about ourselves, right? So it's probably and I'm not sure that it's either or or a little bit of both. So feeling better about ourselves, numbing out the bad stuff, and feeling better about our circumstances or ourselves, right? So the beautiful thing about horses is they don't give a shit about who you are, where you came from, what your resume looks like, how much money you earn, if you just, came off a Skid Row or, Wall Street. They don't care.
Right.
Right? They can tell from your energy in your body if you're being honest with yourself. And if you're being honest with yourself, they will connect with you. And when a horse connects with you, you can feel it on a cellular level. You can feel it in your body. And something happens in your body that cracks you open when a horse connects with you that way. And so when you're dealing with a prisoner or someone who is really, I never want to say a person is broken, because people aren't broken, but someone who is really struggling with the hard shit. When you see a horse kind of crack open just a little bit of somebody's heart like that, it's a miracle. And when they can crack you open just a little bit, then there's an opportunity to crack open just a little bit more.
You're not so long.
Yeah. And then just a little bit more. And pretty soon you have someone who believes that they can change, that they can be different.
They start believing in themselves again.
They start believing in themselves. And that's why these programs with the prisoners and anyone is so important. And unfortunately, recently in the news, the BLM is suspending these programs with the prisons.
Which I think is a terrible move, especially in Colorado.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Because I know personally, I did 20 years in prison in Colorado. And I know so many people that went through that wild horse inmate program, the WHIP program, that are successful and changed today
because
from working with that program when nothing else would work.
Right.
I mean, these were the worst of the worst. I mean, I was not a very nice guy. I did a lot of time for a reason, because I was not a very nice guy. And when guys like me get together, there's either fighting or camaraderie, nothing in between.
Yep.
But when we would go out to the horses, and I wasn't part of the wild horse inmate program, but I was part of the farm program that worked around them all the time. And I knew everybody that was in the program, the trainers, and they're like, Jay, you lived on a farm. Why don't you come out here and work with horses? I'm like, screw you. I ain't working for you guys. I know horses. Horses are cool, but it just wasn't in me to work with the horses. I love the horses. I was working with the cows. I did the dairy. I did some other things, but the wild horse inmate program, they would never give me the clearance to work for them. So I wasn't, I couldn't work with them, but I could be out there and watch them all the time. And the things that those guys would go through, I mean, they would get beat up. The horses would literally beat them up, and they learned self-control, anger issues. If you had anger issues, you weren't going to be very angry very long, because I don't care how big of a guy you are and how strong you are, that horse will tear your ass up. And so they learned self-control. They learned confidence again, not just confidence in themselves, but confidence with trust. They learned all these other skills that, some people would say, don't mean anything, but when you're in prison, they mean everything.
Mm-hmm.
Negotiation skills.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn how to compromise with horses.
Yeah.
Because if a horse doesn't want to do it, guess what? It ain't doing it.
It's not happening.
You know, and
you learn how to set boundaries.
Patience, boundaries. No, you cannot. No. And it's so, yeah, that's the worst thing Colorado will ever do on prison reform is take away a program that works.
Yep.
It's
horrible for the prisoners and it's horrible for the horses, and it's a horrible, horrible idea. Absolutely.
100% agree.
Yeah.
You know, and not, man, I've seen it. I could tell war stories from prison all day long, probably for the next year, you know, and nothing more successful than the WHIP program.
Yeah.
I mean, the recidivism rate for the people in the WHIP program are a whole lot less than they are for regular main inmate population. That's number one. Yeah. And that's a big one, you know. It's just crazy. The success stories from the WHIP. Yes, there's always going to be the bad apples. There's always going to be the bad seeds, just like in everything else. You can view it as a statistics game. You can look at the part of the statistic or the person, you know. And there's going to be bad seeds in everywhere. There's always going to be the one or two that ruin it for everybody, like everywhere else. But all in all, the inmate horse program, the wild horse inmate horse program was super successful.
Yep. You don't have to twist my arm. I just you know, it's incredible to, you know, to witness the change and to have felt it myself. I mean, you know, I wanted to learn how to do this work after I experienced it. And, you know, there's nothing like it. And it's hard to describe because you feel it, like I said, at a cellular level. You can feel it in your body, and you can't really explain that. And so it's something that you just have to experience for yourself. And, you know, it's hard. And so you're still in Colorado?
No, I moved out of Colorado. I changed my people, places, and things. I live in the sunny state of Florida, which is sunny, right? It ain't so sunny right now. It's been raining all day, all morning. Maybe the sun's starting to come out. I can't tell really, but yeah, you know. So yeah, I changed all those things for reasons because I was too comfortable and too well known in the town that I lived in. Because literally I lived in the same area for most of my life. And so when the police law enforcement agencies around the 3 counties that I lived in knew me by my first name, it's like, yeah, I think it's time to leave.
Time to go.
It's time to go, you know. So I had the opportunity. I came down here on vacation. Actually, I was coming down here just to get out of Colorado, you know. I was early in my recovery, and it's like, why not, you know? And came down here on vacation. 3 weeks later, I was down here permanently.
Wow.
Yeah, literally that fast. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I've done one of those before recovery, but
yeah,
you know, but
you know, the permanence, we never really had as an addict, especially my type of addict. You know, nothing was ever permanent. You know, it was all liquid. It's all fluid.
Yeah.
And you're always moving. You don't have a permanent spot. That's why most addicts that are still in active addiction, even recovering addicts, have multiple backpacks full of stuff. They become hoarders. They become people that collect things because they don't have anything to themselves, you know? And so when you see somebody with a backpack or 3, you know, and it's full of nothing that you would think was worth anything, it could be all junk. It could be multiples of one thing. You know, it's because it's theirs, you know, it's theirs.
Yeah.
In this life that we really don't have anything permanently ever. When you see an addict with stuff, with things and they're carrying it around with them, that means it's important. And they tend to hold on to those things. And if you leave, if an addict gives up that thing, they're lost.
Mm.
So you can see that will stop a lot of addicts from going anywhere. If I can't take my whatever it is, then I'm not going, because that's all I've got in the world.
I see.
I don't have people. I don't have relationships. I don't have anything else. If I can't take this bag of important stuff with me, then guess what? You're not going to see me. I ain't going. And that's why their bag or their backpack is so important to them. It's not, and it couldn't be important to me. It would be nothing to me. It'd be nothing to the next person, but their stuff is highly guarded and highly protected because it's always being lost. It's always being stolen. It's always being, they never have anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why an addict will have a backpack or 4 or 5, but you'll always see them with at least one of all their stuff, big, huge bolting bags. How could you carry that? They will carry that until they die.
Wow.
They would rather die with that backpack than live a clean life. Yeah.
Man.
And until they realize that, and getting out of that mindset, getting out of that mentality is really hard. It's really hard because all this is replaceable. This whole backpack of stuff is replaceable. It's nothing. It was probably free at the store because they probably jacked it from the store in the first place, but it's worth it to them to die for this backpack of nothing to anybody that could go to the store and buy it.
Yeah.
And even if they get out of jail, if they go to jail and they don't have it, they'll get it again, so it's really easily replaceable. But try to tell them that you can't replace it.
Yeah.
And that keeps a lot of addicts stuck in that nope, unless I got to take this with me. I ain't going. I don't have any safe place. This is my safe. This is my safe stuff. I'm not taking nothing else. This is my safe stuff. If I can't take that, then I don't want to go. No. And once you realize how much this stuff really means, it's their life. It's literally their life.
Yeah.
Whether it can be replaced or not, it's theirs. They put in the work for it. It means something to them.
Yeah.
And so they're willing to die for their backpack, their stuff, and then put it down and go to a rehab, go to a detox, go to get help unless they have it.
Yeah.
So, and, a lot of the addicts I know become hoarders because of it. They can't get rid of anything because they've never had anything.
Yeah.
It's really hard to break that cycle of I've never had anything, so I want everything.
Yeah.
I want it all now. And once you realize that you'll get it all when you'll get more valuable things, you'll get more valuable, whatever it may be, out of addiction. Once they realize that, then this means nothing.
Right.
They could look at that backpack and like, why do I have 15 of these?
Right.
The transformation is crazy, but it's really true. It's true.
Right. Right.
As an addict, I used to make more money working hard than I did selling drugs. I made more money in the oil field. I was into overtime sometimes in the third day of work. And I worked for this one company, Oil States International, big, huge company. And I was one of their site supervisors. And all I had to do is go out to a site, watch them move, be on the radio, say, hey, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're cleared. Go ahead. And literally, I was making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a week. And all that would go to, and then so I was up all day. I woke up at 5 a.m., be to work it until 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 p.m. And then from that time, that PM time, once I got home, I would be in the game, the drug game. I'd sell drugs, I'd buy drugs, I'd do drugs. And I'd have to stay high to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
I made more money working than I did selling drugs. And it was crazy because it was the game that I was addicted to a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because then I could get my drugs for free. I could use drugs for free. I had power now. It's another thing, power addiction.
Yeah.
I have the power. Not really. I never had power, but still, I was more valuable as a worker than I ever was as a drug addict or a seller of drugs ever. If I could have stopped, I would have stopped and just worked, but I couldn't stop. And that's where the problem came in, is I couldn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Ugh, insidious.
It really is. Being able to talk about it now, because I would never be able to talk about this as an addict. No, hell no. I don't want to talk about nothing to nobody as an addict.
Oh.
Nobody. That's the worst thing I can do. Nope, I'm good. Thanks. I'll sit over in the corner. In fact, I'm out of here. I got to go.
Yeah, really? Let's have a drink.
Yeah. I got to go. I'll meet you down the block. If you want to see me, I'm down there,
Yeah.
and then along with that came the meth-induced psychosis. Induced psychosis.
Yeah.
You start seeing things, you start hearing things. It gives you supervision and super freaking hearing, because I'm telling you, and that takes a long time to go away. A long time to go away, if ever. And just depending on the type and the purity and the impurity of the drug, that sometimes that takes a long, long time to go away.
Oof.
Luckily for me, I had a lot of brain cells that I could burn, I guess, because I'm still doing pretty good. And, but there's sometimes that I still get that way. And it's like, I recognize it now for what it is. It's not me. It's not anything else. It's the old used to, coulda me. And it's like, I'm good. I'm good. I can recognize that. Even as an addict, I could recognize that, but I fed into it still. It's crazy. I would know the truth, but I would refuse to believe the truth.
Mm.
It's crazy that addiction is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so powerful. Hiding and covering something up and becoming an addict, coping with it the wrong way, is so powerful that it will take and end your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It did.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that the only thing that I was addicted to was Chardonnay. I mean,
absolutely. And that's bad enough,
Yeah.
And it's another one of those things. And that one's more acceptable in society.
Right.
That's why an alcoholic is so hard to realize that they're an alcoholic, because it's so acceptable in society.
It's alcohol is the only drug that we have to make excuses not to take.
Yeah.
Nobody says, well, why aren't you shooting up heroin today?
Right. Never got that,
heroin with that,
yeah. Exactly.
Nobody says that. How about some meth?
No.
Nobody says.
And you go out for dinner, and okay, so your partner's having whatever else, and you're like, I want water, iced tea, whatever. Why? Are you too good? It's like, really? You're gonna shame me into freaking drinking now? Screw you too.
And the restaurants are just starting to get a little bit on board with mocktails and non-alcoholic beers. I haven't seen any non-alcoholic wines on menus yet. And maybe they'll catch up, but it's really unfortunate that they're still they're still separating that out. And the and the stupid thing is
Mm-hmm.
they could be making a boatload of money if they would cater to the non-alcoholic audience that is
and speaking of that, I remember as a kid, my grandpa would order me Roy Rogers's, Roy Rogers and Shirley Temples. That was my drink of choice as a kid. Whenever we would go out, my grandpa had his big, huge beer collection, but I really never seen him drink it, and so I don't know if it was for everybody else or for him, because he might have, I don't know. I never really paid attention. I know my uncles did. I know a lot of my family did, but I was a kid. But so when we all go out to the big Italian restaurants or, Tony Roma's, wherever we would go, it would always be, JJ, you want a Roy Rogers? I'm like, you already know it, Grandpa. Absolutely. I want a Roy Rogers, And I think that generation, their non-alcoholics was Roy Rogers and Shirley Temples. My mom just posted in chats, you didn't see Grandpa drinking because by the time you came around, he had diabetes, so he couldn't drink as much. Makes sense. That makes sense. But, I always thought, I was cool drinking the Roy Rogers. But when we were kids, we made 150 gallons of red wine in the basement every year. Damn, Grandpa was a wine maker. I did know that. I knew he grew his own grapes and made his own wine. He was Italian. When we talk about Italians, he's the typical grow everything, make everything,
Wow.
Italian,
Nice.
So yeah. And I did know he made his own wine. He still had bottles down there, his own bottles and resealable bottles. And
cool.
But I think the way the Roy Rogers thing for that generation and the Roy Rogers and the Shirley Temple drinks were their non-alcoholic in a mocktail.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, you should be able to order something besides a Coke or a 7-Up or a ginger ale or club soda.
Right.
I mean, they're really, and it's frustrating.
It is.
It's just frustrating because there's a market out there and they're ignoring it.
There is. Actually, they're starting to take advantage of it. I think in California, they're going to start opening up in lounges, is what I heard. It's going to be like a coffee shop atmosphere type place where it's all non-alcoholic, And so, they're starting to catch on, but they're a little late to the game.
Yeah. We used to have a non-alcoholic bar here that was, they just served non-alcoholic spirits and wines and beers. But they went out of business. They were going to reopen. They had to close their location. I think they were in North Denver in the Highlands area, which was very expensive rent. And so they closed that location. They were going to reopen, but they haven't. So, it's unfortunate.
I grew up in the Boulder County in Louisville, Colorado. I grew up in Louisville. So a big Italian community. Yeah. Louisville, Colorado was.
Oh yeah.
My godfather owned the freaking used car sales, Umberto Auto Sales. That's my godfather. Ferreras. If you've ever heard of a Ferrera, that's my family in Colorado.
Well, I would be remiss. Let's see. Oh, gosh. Well, I can't think of the name right now.
There's Annette Ferrera. There was
Italian food.
Blue Parrot.
The Blue Parrot and the sister, or the
Joni Kalachi.
Kalachis.
Yeah, that's some of my family.
Yep.
Sure is. Yep.
The other side.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were like cousins or something. But yeah, it was all in the family.
Yep.
I couldn't date anybody in my own damn hometown because I might be related to them. Shit. It was terrible. Literally, I couldn't date anybody in my hometown because there's a chance I was related to them.
Yep.
You know,
oh my goodness.
I went to Louisville Elementary, Louisville Middle, then Centaurus. You know, the typical Louisville schools at that point in time. You know, so it's like, all right, you know, it was a good life. You know, from what I remember. I mean, Louisville was probably the least crime town in Colorado for years. They probably still are one of the least.
Yeah.
You know, it was just a good life.
Yeah.
And I still ended up an addict. So, you know, it doesn't matter how good of life, how bad of life. It just goes to show that it affects everybody different.
It's
you know,
exactly right.
And it can hit anybody.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
And Yep. Well, Nancy, it's been great having you on my show. Thank you for bringing back some great memories of Colorado.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation.
If there's one, I got to ask you this last question. If there's one thing that you want anybody to take away that's listening or that could potentially listen to this, one thing at all, what would that one thing be?
Oh, gosh. You know, I think I have to say that it's never too late. You're never too old to do what you want to do and be who you want to be. You know, you just have to believe in yourself and have your own back and do it. Just
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on that, that's Rockin' Recovery. Until next time, keep rocking your recovery and stay sober today.
Yeah.
Stay sober. Just drink tomorrow. Don't worry about it. Drink tomorrow.